Well, I'm Jeremiah Johnke, the editor for WyoSports. I'm on my 4A football tour, and I'm here with Kelly Walsh head coach Jon Vance. Coach Vance, you've been here for a couple years, and you guys have had some success and gotten into the playoffs more often than not. What's it that's been keeping you guys from maybe taking that next step and breaking into that semifinal group?
I think a lot of it is our, execution. You look back at last year, we'd go up and down the field at times, we just couldn't really score, and in the red zone we weren't, very effective. So that's been a focus for us, and trying to get some things cleaned up and get the kids, to keep playing and keep playing hard and whatnot. So that's definitely a focus for us, is to get, more success that way.
Well, I know we were talking a little bit earlier, and it seems to me like that Rock Springs game maybe is one that kind of haunts you guys from last year. What was it about that game? Because I know you guys were leading early, and then they ended up coming back on you. What is it about that game that maybe stood out in your mind? About that that being one of the pivotal games from last season.
With that we. Offensively, we couldn't answer in the second half, and prior to that, we had dropped 2 touchdowns in the end zone for us, and against that offense, it's so hard when if you don't take advantage of the chances you get, because they keep the ball so well, and they did a good job. They got the outside edge on us a couple times, and that was enough to seal the deal for the game for them, because especially they got a good backfield that's returning this year. So we just we just need to be sound, and we got to take advantage of any opportunity we get, and no matter what game it is.
Well, looking at you guys' offense, you've got a third-year starter. Maybe that's a third-year starter with an asterisk. In Lamont Frisby at quarterback. I know he was a guy that he moved here from Baltimore as a sophomore, and was the starting quarterback early in the season. And then Marcus Nolan decided he was going to come out and play football that year. And then after a couple of games, Marcus reassumed that role that he had the previous season. And then last year, Lamont starts out the season at quarterback, gets hurt. Jacob Costal comes in, does some good things for you, and then you got to maybe protect Lamont a little bit in that shoulder and put him at receiver. How would you kind of sum up his career, and maybe just the different ups and downs and the ins and outs from being the starting quarterback and that sort of thing?
He's definitely seen a lot of reps, and he's very strong now. He didn't miss one weight room day all summer long, so he's all in, and I think we can see that. He keeps getting stronger and bigger, and that'll help him for taking any shots. He's more confident this year, I think, partly as a senior, and then just more comfortable with what things are going on or what to run, and with the reads he needs to make. So he's doing a good job, and you can tell he's a little bit of a veteran.
Well, in Lamont's sophomore year, the situation with Marcus, obviously, when he decides, you guys in the middle of fall camp, hey, after all, I do want to play football this year and that sort of thing. It seemed to me like that'd be a tricky situation to juggle as a coach, because you've got this guy, the other guys have been out here, putting in their sweat and everything throughout the summer and throughout the first week of fall camp, and then you've got, a young guy in Lamont who was out here and was winning the job and that sort of thing. How are you able to kind of juggle that with, with your team in terms of selling them like, hey, Marcus is the right answer here, and he's paid his dues, right. But then also it seemed to me like you would have to maybe massage some hurt feelings or bruised ego or something like that with Lamont. Did you have to do that, and how did you get that done?
We didn't really have to massage the feelings at all. We were very straightforward with it. The first game that Marcus did come back, he was able to play. We had him at wide receiver. He had been taking some quarterback reps, and then we increased those reps, going into that next week, and then we just kind of went by, who was making the more plays. Marcus was a good leader with that. He was vocal. And he kind of assumed that leadership role that a quarterback needed to take. And as a sophomore, kids tend to not be as aggressive or don't feel it's okay for them to take that role. So it was at that point in time, it was the best thing for us. And Marcus had a great senior year out there running the ball and stuff. And then it was good for Lamont and to be able to go down and play that JV level and gain confidence and still run the same stuff that way. So I think it worked out well.
Obviously the one thing, the first thing that you notice about Lamont are his legs. The kid's a darn good sprinter in the outdoor track season, and he was finishing virtually every one of your sprints out here today as the first guy. So that's the first thing that jumps out. That's the easy thing to see. But what other talents does he possess that this is why he's your number one guy at quarterback right now?
I think his athleticism, he has that if factor, like any play can go big. If we can get him in any type of space, he'll be gone. And so that's huge there. He's got a strong arm, and he's really good if we can get him rolling out too, because he can throw it, plus he can hurt you with his feet that way. He's assuming the role. He knows what he needs to do. Even in the first couple of days, he's corrected me a couple times of just different footwork that we've been working on at times when I'm trying to talk faster than my mind can go. And he's like, "Oh, we got this." I'm like, "Yeah, exactly." And so he's really doing a good job with that there. And and the other thing too is that he'll be a good player on defense too for us, because he'll be a good corner, and he's with his speed, he'll be definitely a good factor out there.
Right. Well, I know we mentioned Tanner Bloom. He's a returning all-conference offensive lineman for you. Who else do you have on the offensive side of the ball that you figure, by the end of the season, we're definitely going to know their names?
I think on the offense side of the ball, we got Sam Marsh. Sam will be a 3-year starter out at wide receiver, and he plays safety. We also have Kyle Bacon, who started. He'll be a 3-year starter. Joel Struby has been starting for 3 years, compared to when they were sophomores and we took on East in the playoffs. So those guys have a lot of time up there up front on the offensive side of the ball. We also, looking at Joey Guile will be a junior at tailback. I think by the end of the year he'll be a good player. Get into his role and do a nice job that way. And there, there's a few other guys, as everything's kind of panning out, that we expect, they'll just keep improving.
Defensively, I imagine we'll probably hear a lot of the same names, but defensively, what do you like about that group, and who do you expect to stand out this year?
Right away, as I look at it, I like right away as our defensive line. All those kids are back from last year, and as any football coach, if you can win that line of scrimmage up front, you can have a pretty good night. And I think those kids will be all right. We got some good size up inside with Bloom and Kyle Bacon, and then on the edge we've got Hunter Wright and Joel Struby, who are fast, kind of pass rush type guys and whatnot. So they'll be able to cause give us some good pressure off the edge that way. So I look at those guys. A couple returning linebackers in Kenny Manasco and Ben Gallagher. They both have been playing since they were sophomores. With that, so those guys will help us out, and then our secondary will return with Sam. Sam's a good player. He was a second-team All-State safety, and so he'll be back in there. And in our corners, I think will be our 2 track kids with some guys, and then other people rolling in. So that'll be looking forward to it.
As you talked about your team, one thing that stood out to me is that you say, well, these guys have all played since they were sophomores, or this guy and that guy's a 3-year starter, and that sort of thing. Obviously, you're playing those guys, A, out of necessity, and B, because they win the spot. But, I imagine, maybe 2014, those guys are taking their lumps a little bit. They're getting beat up. Yeah. Last year, have you kind of seen the progress in them from, taking those lumps as a sophomore to maybe last year they're delivering those lumps, and now this year, they're ready to step to the forefront and really do some good things for Kelly Walsh?
I think so. I mean, they're of course they're a lot stronger and faster than they were a couple years ago, just with maturity and being in there of lifting weights and stuff. So that part should be good. Just being older, of the confidence they've gained from playing previous seasons. They understand the speed of the game. They understand what it's like when you're out there on a Friday night and everybody's there watching, and it's a great atmosphere. They're used to that, and that's so that part should be really good for them. And and like I said, the game shouldn't be too fast for them. They should be able to just get out there and set the tone and get out and play.
Well, the last thing I wanted to touch on with you is, as I was planning the football tour the last couple of years, I really, like the first year I tried to hit 2 towns each day or 2 schools each day, and, I thought it was going to be easy because, back when I was playing, I'm sure when you were playing, you'd have a morning practice and then you'd have a late afternoon practice and that sort of thing with the traditional 2 days. But it seems to me now more and more schools are doing, where it's just one long practice with a very short break in between. It seems to me like this year you're doing kind of a hybrid situation where, your practices are close together, but there's not just like a half hour or an hour in between. What is it that, as you're planning your schedule and that sort of thing for fall camp, what goes into the thought process about how you breaking up your 2-a-days?
I've kind of, in my 6 years or whatever, I've did it all different ways, and trying to get here to where we can get off our feet and get cooled down and then be able to have meeting time with them. I've and I think then we can go over on the board what we're going to happen the next practice. And then this year for our first week, we're coming back at night for our last hour and just working on special teams drills, installing special teams, and getting them moving around and get some of that lactic acid out and whatnot. And this will be our second year doing that, just trying to kind of utilize the time that we're giving us, but kind of spread it out to keep us fresh and keep us going that way. I mean, I've did the real long ones where you take a 20-minute break in between and then get back started on the other side of the ball and whatnot. And we really missed our meeting time with them then, where we could talk over on the board and really teach them up. And so, I don't know, kind of tweak it, I guess, and you just see what kind of fits your mold.
It seems to me that one of the problems with the long ones would be, you get maybe past that 2/3 point in practice, and maybe guys are getting tired, or they're just starting to they can't really clock watch, but they start thinking, all right, man, how much longer are we out here?
Right.
And that sort of thing. Did you ever encounter any of that where maybe guys just weren't as sharp towards the end of those long practices?
Definitely, on those really long ones, it seems like whatever you'd started with on offense or whatever, and then you flip the defense later on, that the defense wasn't quite as crisp just because they'd been going for, 2 hours already on the other thing. And so I think for us splitting it up has been good, and we focus just on one side of the ball and really try to fine tune, do a lot of individual skills on both sides, and try to get that stuff honed into there for their first week and a half, and then we're able to taper back and be a little more team oriented, I guess, after that. But it seems to work out well, rather than those real long ones.
All right. Well, I'm WyoSports editor Jeremiah Johnke, and this has been Kelly Walsh football coach Jon Vance. Appreciate your time. Thanks for having us out again.
You bet. Thank you.
We'll catch up with you guys at Natrona. Thanks.